Hello, everyone in Awaken the Goddess Within. Welcome to this month's Creatrix Conversations. I'm going to be talking about the archetype of the May Queen and how it relates to women's sovereignty and sexuality. I'm really excited about this topic, and I will warn you there may be some adult language. So just to warn you about that, use your earbuds if you have little ones around, or tune in later if that bothers you. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. And my name is Flora. I am the focalizer for this online space, and I am the founder of Earth Song Temple. And you are part of that Earth Song community. And every month I go live here for these Creatrix Conversations to bring up topics that I think are relevant, timely, and also relate to all of us being on a conscious spiritual journey, a healing journey, and topics that relate to cyclic living, being attuned to Mother Earth and nature, that relate to divine feminine archetypes, and certainly topics that relate to myth and history, intuition, witchcraft, all of that juicy stuff. So welcome, welcome. I see some women hopping on. Really nice to see you. Wonderful. I see some sisters that were just recently at my Awaken the Goddess Within retreat. So thank you for tuning in. It's really wonderful to be connecting with you through the ethers. So before we dive into this juicy topic around the May Queen, I would like to say that, wow, we just went through a really intense eclipse portal. I don't know about you, but certainly for me, there was a lot that came up to the surface to be looked at and to be released and hopefully transmuted and healed. That Beltane window that we were in, very unique this year, that we had the new moon in Taurus right on the high holy day of Beltane. And thank you if you were also part of that ceremony that we had, which you can still tune into, by the way. The replay's here in the group, the replay's also in the Earth Song Temple library. We had that new moon in Taurus that opened up on Beltane and opened up the eclipse window. Then we had just this past weekend, we had the full moon in Scorpio, closing that eclipse window, but also a total lunar eclipse. So who saw the lunar eclipse on Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on where you live? We managed, a few of us stayed up late, and right around 10 p.m. we saw the eclipse starting to wane, and it was a magical moment. Today I'm going to be a little bit more vulnerable in letting you feel some of my sexy energy, right? Because we're in the season of Beltane. We're in the season of Beltane. We just had that Scorpio full moon, and if you don't know astrology, that's okay, but the sign of Scorpio, which is my sun sign, is well known for its connection to sex. Sex and death and mystery. That's really what Scorpio is all about. But in this season, on the Wheel of the Year, Beltane is also that festival of fertility, right? And in an agricultural-based society, right, which we aren't entirely in anymore, but more historically, fertility, as it related to the crops and as it related to our relationship to the land, was necessary for our survival, right? So we have these high holy days, especially Beltane, but leading right into the summer solstice, that is really feeling that fertility of the land. And it's well known that the ancient Celts would actually fuck in the fields, have sex in the fields, in the forests, outside, on Beltane to ensure that fertility of the land. So I did warn you earlier, in case you're tuning in late, there will be some adult language likely in this live stream. I don't usually swear, but that's just this energy, right? So like I said, if you haven't tuned into the Beltane ceremony and you want to, you still can. Because even though the High Holy Day is past, we're in the season of it. And this is, this is all connected to the archetype of the May Queen. On Beltane, the May Queen is crowned. So who is this May Queen, right? Now, some of you may be familiar with the classic rock band Led Zeppelin. I certainly grew up with all that great music. And in their classic song, Stairway to Heaven, there's this great line, and this is the first time that I was, even introduced to this idea. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen. A spring clean for the May Queen. Again, just so mysterious. What is that? We're at that period in the year for us in the Northern Hemisphere, of course. Spring is giving way to summer. And this archetype of the May Queen represents the maiden energy, right? Winter, late autumn and into winter is the dominion of the crone, right? The Cailleach in the Irish tradition or Celtic tradition, but the wise woman, right? But then as winter turns into spring, we have the new life, and we have the virility of spring. And the maiden, who is crowned on May Day, it marks her transition from maiden to ultimately mother in the summer. But what do you need to do to become a mother, right? Have sex. So there's the lover archetype in there, right? From maiden to lover to mother and queen, right? So these traditions are representing the cycles of life, the turning of the seasons, all of that. Pardon me, just wanting to get back here. And this is a long-standing tradition, right? That has had many different, different iterations throughout time and throughout culture. Now, a lot of my ancestry is Celtic, of course, so the Germanic movement that took the Celts to the British Isles, Irish, all of that. And in the last few centuries, this tradition of the May Queen, what actually really popularized it again was a poem written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Does anyone know Alfred Lord Tennyson? One of his other famous poems, one of my all-time favorite poems, is The Lady of Shalott. But his poem, The May Queen, that was written in the 1800s, actually popularized, that's a tricky word right now, this idea of the May Queen. And in fact, the whole Victorian era saw a resurgence of some older rites that now had a more Catholic or Christian spin on them, to be fair. But I'm going to read one of the stanzas from his poem. I sleep so sound all night, mother, that I shall never wake, if you do not call me loud when the day begins to break. But I must gather knots of flowers and buds and garlands gay, for I'm to be the Queen of May, mother, I'm to be the Queen of May. And so that beautiful line about gathering knots, I love that, knots of flowers and buds and garlands. The May Queen really is the embodiment of the goddess Flora, actually. The goddess Flora in the Roman tradition was the goddess of flowers and the goddess of springtime. And of course, archetypally, that energy has had many different names throughout cultures and throughout time. And so in the Celtic tradition, she's also known as Críothilad. Críothilad, who's our goddess of this month, the Welsh goddess of flowers, and is known as the May Queen. Her name anglicized is Cordelia, a little easier to say for some of us with English as our mother tongue, Cordelia, right? And so she's an embodiment of the land and of all of the flora, the plants, the flowers, the trees. And she is a feminine archetype of what's known as a sovereignty goddess. And this is very much in the Celtic tradition, a sovereignty goddess. So again, what does that mean? What is it? Why is there queen and sovereignty and some of these words that have to do, that we associate like with the monarchy, right? So in the month of Bealtaine, which by the way in Gaelic, Bealtaine is simply the month of May. So the high holy day of Bealtaine opens up the month of May, but again, more anglicized. We can call it Beltane. So she's representing that connection, that embodiment to the land. And superficially, right, on the surface, this role served the social function of celebrating youth, right? Celebrating spring, the new energy in the land, and boughs of garlands and trees and different things. There'd be processions. There'd be the maypole dance. The maypole, this very phallic symbol that is inserted into the ground, right? Are you getting this here? Right? You take the phallus, insert it into the fertile earth, and then ribbons would be woven around it in this dance of union, sacred marriage. And all of this were sacramental offerings to ensure the fertility of the crops. Now, that focus would have been older, right? So by the time these rites were being reintroduced in the 1800s, like I said, with the poem of Alfred, Lord Tennyson, the Queen of May was now the Virgin Mary, right? Mother Mary. So, you know, like the Christianity did, they basically adopted older pagan traditions and adapted them, right? And this is what we do as humans. So, but the farther back we go, we see these kinds of fertility rituals all over. I mean, really, like I said, superficially, the role of the May Queen was about celebrating and youth and abundant crops and all of that. But at a deeper level, these ancient rites represented the ability of the sovereignty goddess to bestow authority to a king or to a chief. That a man could not become the leader of his people without going through the reenactment of the heros gamos rite, which is the sacred marriage. And yes, we're in most cases we're talking about an act of ritual sacred sex. So sacred sex dates back thousands of years. There's records of sacred sex priestesses and the rites all the way back to ancient Sumeria, which we're talking 6,000 years ago, 4,500 BC, ancient Sumeria. And this is in Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia, what's known as the cradle of civilization, modern day Iran, and I'm forgetting, but that whole area really between northeastern Africa and India, along that, I'm actually looking at my map in the world, along the Indian Ocean. So ancient Sumeria, where there were women priestesses, there were women in positions of leadership still, right? And these acts were indeed sacred. And now over time, right, over thousands of years, that started to shift, right? We started to see a more patriarchal mindset, and the culture of Sumeria then became Babylon. And even for someone who's not very Christian, what do you know about Babylon from the Bible? Okay, I guess I'm just going to say it. The whore of Babylon, right? Haven't we all heard about the whore of Babylon, right? Just like the Bible tried to make Mary Magdalene the whore. Okay, fair enough, Lori. Yes, you know the story of the fall of Babylon. But, oh, no, you don't? Okay, you're right. I shouldn't assume we've all heard about the whore of Babylon. But I'm sure that they were talking about a priestess in one of the temples that offered sacred sex, you know, in that ritual act. So again, like I'm talking 4,000 BC, 3,000 BC, many, many years ago. Well, guess what? Oh, actually, I have something else around that. Yes. So in Sumer and later in Babylon, the rituals involving sacred sexuality, or what's known as the heros gamos, the sacred marriage, they were again fertility rites, and in that time were connected to Inanna, who then became known as Ishtar. And then after that era, her name changed to Astarte. And then by the time ancient Greeks, she became known as Aphrodite. Inanna, Ishtar, Astarte, Aphrodite. There's all about, again, what do you know about Aphrodite? If you know that goddess more, love, beauty, right? Her sexuality. These are all fertility goddesses, and they are all embodiments of the fertility of the land and this marriage of the masculine and feminine principle, right? So we have this in ancient Mesopotamia, right? Well, guess what? At around the same time, over in Ireland, which if you can imagine, if you can picture Europe and into a bit of Asia in your mind, you have Mesopotamia all the way over here, then you have the whole continent of Europe, then you have England, and it's like Ireland is this tiny island way off in the west. But those traditions had made their way through time, because in Ireland, as recently as the 6th century, so now we're talking like the 500 AD, right? So just as recently as the 6th century, all Irish kings were crowned on the hill of Tara. And when we were in Ireland 3 years ago in the Awaken the Goddess Within in Ireland retreat, we went to the coronation stone on the hill of Tara and saw it. It's kind of incredible that we could even touch it. You can still touch it. It's amazing. It's also known as the Stone of Destiny. I can't say that with a regular voice. Stone of Destiny. That's the hill of Tara. And yes, like I said, all kings of Ireland were crowned at the coronation stone, but more than that, they also engaged in the heros gamos rite with the priestesses of Tara, or the female druids, also known as the Banduri. They would reenact that. No king could be crowned without having that power, that authority bestowed to him by a woman, right? A woman, not just any woman, right? A trained spiritual leader who understood the sacredness and the meaning behind this act. So it's really important for us to realize that this is like an ancient archetypal energy and reenactment. And what I love about this is that it speaks to how the Celts really kept that tradition, and how the Celts didn't have that same sexism inherent in their culture. It's one of the things that shocked the Romans about the Celts that you may or may not know, right? And in Julius Caesar's books, he was just like shocked and appalled that there were women who were in positions of leadership, women who were like engaged in discussions on treaties, that there were women that owned property, that there were women even that went to war. So think about that, because of course we've been told a different story in a lot of ways. Even like Hollywood nowadays depicting ancient times with still the patriarchal lens of today, and it's not accurate. Yes, I'm seeing some more comments now. Yes, known as the goddess of love. In Irish, I love the cleric. Oh, I'm not sure I know the cleric. Lori, I just learned the tale of Anya. I believe she was one of the Celtic sacred sex goddess. Yes, Anya. And she's very connected to the summer solstice. And here's something else I'll say. I talk about this a lot because the wheel of the year and the seasons, we obviously all experience different seasons. So in the milder climate of the British Isles, like I said, Beltane, Bealtaine opens the month of May because we're really in the peak of spring, right? Moving into summer at that time. In that milder climate. But the more north you go, when you look at the Scandinavian traditions, they would crown their May Queen at midsummer, which is the summer solstice, because it takes longer for it to warm up there because they're at a much higher latitude, right? So I wanted to plant that seed too, because maybe some of you have more of your ancestry from Northern Europe or the Scandinavian countries. And so this, like I said, we're in this season of it now, from Beltane right through to Letha, which is another name for solstice, the summer solstice. And archetypally, we're in an era now where women all over the world truly are reclaiming our power again, the power in our voices, and we're reclaiming sovereignty over our sexuality, right? In such a big way, really, even just over the last few decades, that was not available to our grandmothers, or our grandmothers' grandmothers, or our grandmothers' grandmothers' grandmothers, right? It really wasn't that long ago that by law, women were property of men. And this seems like the right moment now to I want to acknowledge my American sisters that have been really shaken up and upset by the recent events happening in the States, the threat of Roe versus Wade being overturned, and the possibility that would mean that abortions would become illegal again in some states. Of course, it's upsetting. It's incredulous that this could be happening in 2022, right? But we are not without a voice to speak up, to make our opinions heard, and there's been so many things in the last few years that I know a lot of us have been feeling like, man, the world is getting really crazy. And someone described it in a way that I thought felt really accurate, that it's like we're seeing the death throes, the final death throes of a society that is dying, right? And so coming back to really owning sovereignty of our sexuality, we get to choose who we give our bodies to. We get to choose our lovers, right? We have the power to choose. We have the power to choose what we do with our bodies, right? Yes, Shannon, the final battle with the ego. Yeah, that's right. The ego that doesn't want to let go of control. Yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it, with that more psychological lens. So this is, so coming back to this archetype, right? This archetype, and any deity, any goddess that you connect with that you feel represents this for you, I invite you to spend a little more time with her while we're in this season, right? Like whether it's Cordelia or Crethelad as that Welsh goddess of flowers, the May Queen, whether it's Maeve. Oh, Maeve's a good one. If you don't know Maeve, oh yes. Maeve was an Irish goddess of sexuality and war. Does that sound very Scorpio? She's very connected with Beltane. She was a queen. She saw herself, she would only be equal to her partner who was king. And her sexual appetite was so great that no king could be crowned without visiting her royal bed. Oh, and another great mythic story about Maeve is that she was so angry at this invading army that she somehow cast a spell so that they all felt menstrual cramps. Was it menstrual cramps or the pain of childbirth? She made the men feel the pain of being born in a body with a womb. Yes, Lilith. Thank you for mentioning Lilith, and especially since we were talking a bit of like the Bible and Babylon earlier. Who thinks the Bible got Lilith's story all wrong? Right? I mean, maybe it wasn't entirely wrong, but really? Really? I mean, who doesn't prefer sex on top? What is that? This whole Bible story about the position of sex? It's bizarre, right? Anyway, like I said, this is gonna be that lusty energy today because we're talking about women's sovereignty and sexuality. So I guess I've just opened up this whole conversation to invite you to feel perhaps you want to be a little more sexual, and maybe you want to be more sovereign in your sexuality. Just last night, I had a dream and I was so horny in the dream suddenly that I went off and started pleasuring myself. Now, I don't remember ever a single dream in my entire life. I have lots of sex dreams. Let's be clear. But I've never masturbated in a dream. So I woke up and I thought, well, that was interesting. And thankfully I have a good friend, my soul sister Aurora, and we talk a lot through Voxer, and we often are sharing dreams and we kind of interpret them. And I just had a moment when I was like, today I'm talking about women's sovereignty and sexuality. Of course I would have a dream about self-pleasuring. So perhaps that's something that you want to look at. Perhaps you want to feel that maybe it's been a while since you've initiated sex with your partner, right? I know that tendency can happen, especially in male-female relationships. well, heck, what am I saying? Even my relationship with my wife. Like, who's going to actually take the initiation when it's two women? It's an interesting dynamic. Maybe you just want to, like I said, consider one of these goddesses that represent love and beauty and sexuality and spend time with her. Sit with her, whether it's Aphrodite or Ishtar, Astarte, and sit, in contemplation and meditation with her. Do some little ritual. See what medicine she might have for you. And of course, most of all, and I don't care that I always sound like a broken record about this, but get outside. Get outside with your bare feet on the ground and feel the fecundity of the earth at this time of year, right? Feel it. See the bees and the flowers, smell the trees and what they're releasing. They're releasing their pollen. Now, I hope, if you have allergies, take care. But it's like the trees are having sex. The flowers are coming into bloom, right? Let yourself really feel that. Because, man, we're so cut off from it. We've generally, right, as a society, we're cut off. We've cut ourselves off from our source of life, our source of vitality in terms of our relationship to the land, but even to our bodies, right? Letting yourself feel pleasure in your body. And hey, if self-pleasuring is maybe too far out of your comfort zone, then what can you do to bring yourself pleasure? Embodied. Is it dancing? Is it, I don't know, is it going for a run? Right? Let yourself feel that vitality and pleasure in your body, because this is so, what word? Fecundity? Is that it? I missed it. The fecundity of the natural world. Yes, fecund. It's a great word. Me and my sons hug a tree and walk daily. Yes, it's so great. That's so, so great. Well, I'm feeling like this is coming to completion. I always love sharing a bit of historical context, a little bit of myth, and a little bit of here's the way to tangibly take some of this inspiration into your daily lives. And just to welcome in the May Queen, right? Welcome her in here, and welcome her in here, right? Let yourself embody that juiciness of life, and never forget that you are a sovereign being, and you have sovereignty over your sexuality, and you have sovereignty over your body, and truly, we have sovereignty over our life, right? The choices that we make. And this is so perfectly aligned because the deeper mystery school of Earth Song Temple that I lead, which is called She Spirals, is based in the 13 moon archetypes founded by Ariel Spilsbury. And I am on the path of ordination to become a 13 moon priestess. And as we come into Beltane, and it's really connected with Taurus season, right? The Taurus energy. We are working with the archetype of the Lady of Communion. And one of her other names is the Sovereign Queen. So in She Spirals, we've been deepening with this frequency and connecting with this embodiment of the Lady of Communion. And in that tradition, we really look at the Heros Gamos, the sacred marriage, as being the union of the masculine and feminine energies within. Right? So she is beyond being separated. She's beyond duality into union, in communion. So I always know that whatever we're doing in the deeper mystery school, the heart of Ursong Temple, which is that She Spirals mystery school, whatever the energies we're working on, the ripple effects are amplified into the greater community, right? That you're a part of, being in this group, being part of Ursong Temple. And so I decided this month to really speak to that connection. And especially, like I said, with what's going on in the States. I'm up in Canada, but I'm praying for you. I'm praying for what's just and true to prevail. So all women can be sovereign over their bodies and over their sexuality. Yeah. Well, my loves. Oh, yes, if you're wondering, the doors open once a year for She Spirals. So doors will open in November for enrollment. That begins in January. It's a year-long mystery school training in the 13 archetypes. It's an incredible place. Yeah, of course, sister. You have 2 girls. You're worried for them. And that is valid. That is totally understandable. But what could you do instead of worrying? I just offer that. You could talk to them. I mean, age appropriate, of course. Talk to them, right? Educate them. Empower them, right? Yeah, and I really feel you. My mama heart to your mama heart, sister. Yeah. Well, my sister queens, thank you for tuning in to this broadcast around the archetype of the May Queen. I hope you are feeling a little bit more, energy. I've given you lots of different ideas to take this into your spiritual practice, into your daily lives. Blessed, blessed be my beautiful sister queens.